I'm Mackenzie O'Keefe in the CBSN Denver studio. Doctors have learned a lot about how coronavirus is transmitted over the past 6 months. The thinking has changed quite a bit. Joining me now is CBS 4 medical editor Dr. Dave Hnida. And Dr. Dave, in the beginning, getting COVID from touching surfaces was really a big concern. Tell us why that's no longer a big worry, and what do doctors think is the biggest way coronavirus is being transmitted now?
Yeah, surfaces, it was just a huge thing back when this whole thing started. If you think about those days, we were afraid to be touching surfaces. We were afraid to be touching our mail, opening packages, handling groceries. We were scrubbing down our fruits, our vegetables. And then we started to worry about, could we get coronavirus from eating food? Would we get it from drinking water? And when we hit the summer, could we wind up getting it by going into a swimming pool? So as things have gone on, though, we have learned that those things are just not as significant as we once thought. So at this point, really what we do is we look at three things as being the main risk factors for transmission or catching coronavirus. And first off, still is surfaces. Surfaces are important from the standpoint of, let's say that you have someone who is infected with COVID. They cough, they sneeze, they touch a doorknob, and then you go and you touch that doorknob a short time later and then wind up touching your face and eyes. There's a chance that you could become infected. And that is why the guideline is there for lots and lots of hand washing as well as good hygiene. Then you go to the concern over droplet transmission. Now, droplets are microscopic saliva that winds up coming out of the mouth or nose whenever somebody coughs or sneezes or even talks loudly. And we know that those droplets have the potential, if they have COVID in them, to travel up to 6 feet and therefore potentially infect you. And that's why we say, wear a mask and also keep that 6-foot social distance there. And then third is aerosol transmission. What are aerosols? Aerosols are just even smaller bits of saliva that winds up coming out through the mouth and nose. And the problem with aerosol transmission through the air is we know that aerosols can travel 18 to 20 feet. They can remain in the air for hours at a time. And so we really get concerned that that could be a major mode of transmission. Therefore, there is that guideline: wear masks, make sure that you are in a well-ventilated area, make sure there's fresh air, and make sure you're not in tight, enclosed spaces with other people. So the things that we worried about before, we don't worry as much about now, but there are things that we do know can be huge factors for transmission.
Yeah, those masks and that social distancing sounds like it's extremely important with that. Well,
it is.
The governor and CHSA have authorized sports, including high school football, to return this fall. So what do you think school districts need to do to make sure their students and their coaches stay safe?
Well, I think they're doing the best they can. They've come up with a group of guidelines that you are hopeful that are going to be successful in helping to really keep any source of transmission down. I mean, they have limited roster sizes. They are having social distancing for players on the sideline, let alone fans who are in the stands. You're not playing, you're not part of the active kids that are on the field. You need to be wearing a mask. A lot of things that are going on in terms of trying to keep people apart, but yet allowing them to participate. And I gotta tell you, as being a player, as being a coach, and as being a team doctor for literally hundreds of games over the course of my life, this is really going to be kind of a hard thing to do just because of the very nature of football. But I think when you look at the big picture, there are a couple things that are going for this to work. And number one is the fact that football is something that is played outside. So you do have good fresh air circulating around. And number two, right now here in Colorado, our numbers are good. Our numbers are down. We're not having the higher numbers that many other states are seeing. And so those are big pluses. Then you go to a couple of negatives. And first and foremost on there is the fact that you don't have the level of testing that is taking place in college and in the NFL. So without that daily or multiple times per week testing, the ability to detect COVID on a team is really severely limited. And number two, you have kids who are spending time at home. They wind up coming into a group setting onto a team that has 50 to 100 players. They're mixing and circulating through the course of practices and in games, and then they wind up going into school where they may be parts of different pods and cohorts and so forth. So there is the potential for spread there. I think this is really a big experiment at this point in time, and hopefully will wind up turning out well.
Yeah, hopefully. We know a lot of families and kids are excited to be back out there on the field this fall. So, and we also, we just talked about the importance of wearing masks for transmission, but we've also heard a lot of questions about wearing eyeglasses or eye protection. Is that something that can protect you as well from the virus?
Boy, what an interesting thought this whole thing is. It's been actually floating around there for a long time, whether or not it could be of help. There have been some anecdotal reports. There have also been a couple of studies, including one recently in a journal of ophthalmology, that suggested that people who wear glasses maybe get a little bit more protection from COVID, but not really the best studies in the world. In theory, sure, coronavirus could enter through the nose, mouth, and eyes because they are what we call mucous membranes. Look at medical personnel, people who are performing procedures or working on the front lines. They often will be wearing goggles or some sort of eye protection as well as other protective equipment. And I do have colleagues who, when they go out and about, even in daily life, will wear glasses instead of contacts and will wear sunglasses as much as they can just because they worry about the potential for transmission through the eyes. Now, for the rest of us out in the community, I think it's a big unknown. I don't think we can definitively say, yes, you should be wearing glasses because you'll wind up lessening the potential for spread into the eyes, or even you'll be touching your face less and that'll decrease your risk. I think at this point in time, there really is no strict guidance on this one. In theory, makes a little bit of sense, but I don't think that you can definitely say if you wear glasses, you are going to be protected.
Interesting. It sounds like just try to keep your hands off your face is the best thing you can do.
Hard to do.
Yep, it is. It's very difficult. Well, Dr. Dave, thank you so much, as always, for joining us. We'll see you back here next Monday at 11 a.m. as we answer more coronavirus questions. And to see all of our Q&A with Dr. Dave segments, just visit cbsdenver.com. We'll be right back.